in, huh?
80,000.
You got money to spare.
I got 30,000 more.
You can let her. I don't have any more stuff for you.
This is Al Rosen, otherwise known as Mr. Mint, and in 1985 he found the biggest sports card collection in the history of the hobby. According to him, he bought 75 ungraded 1952 Mickey Mantles in Massachusetts and then began selling off the cards. And one of those cards was this one. In my estimation, the finest known example in the world. Back in 1990, my father spoke to Mr. Rosen about buying that card, and he told my dad, I want $52,000 for a 52 Mantle. This was the holy grail for my father. He had owned a 52 Mantle back in 52, but it was pretty beat up. And then my grandmother threw away all his baseball cards when he went to college. So my father asked me, what do you think I should do? Should I buy it? Now, since I was the brains of the operation, that's right, my father put me to work at the age of 13 to be in charge of his sports card empire. So I looked at him and said, what do you value more, the Mantle or your marriage? Because if you buy that card, mom is definitely packing up the bags and moving out of the house and divorcing you. Ultimately, he passed on that card, but in 1991, Mr. Rosen eventually sold the card for $50,000, and then he wrote this letter. The 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle card for which you have purchased for $50,000 is in my estimation the finest known example in the world. It is perfectly centered side to side and top to bottom. It exhibits blazing white borders and glossy undisturbed blue background. The reverse is also perfectly centered with only the slightest evidence of paper toning due to age on the left-hand border. This card comes from my 1985 Topps find in Massachusetts. Up until that time, a perfect Mantle just did not exist. Out of that particular find, there were 7 to 10 perfect cards. This is definitely one of them. In closing, I would like to thank you for purchasing the card from me. And keep in mind that if you ever wish to sell this card, it would be a pleasure to assist you in that transaction. The person who bought that card then sent it to SGC for grading, and it got a 9.5. And then in 2022, they sold the card for $12.6 million, a record for any sports card in history, for a total profit of $12,550,000 over a 32-year period. Which begs the question, can sports card make you rich? That's what we're going to discuss this week on EDI Sports Show. Hello and welcome back to EDI Sports Show. I'll be your host, Doc Schwartz, and we have a huge show this week. Yes, we are going over that question, but I also have a mail day. I got a couple things in. We also have your viewer comments at the end. But let's get right into it because that's what we're here for. Can sports cards make you rich? This is a big question. Everybody keeps wanting to know, like, can you make money on sports cards? Can you get rich on sports cards? Obviously, the 9.5 that you can see down on the lower corner, the Mickey Mantle, like somebody made a lot of money on that. And like I said in the intro, my father almost bought that card for $52,000. Now, it actually sold for $2,000 less a year later, but that's because the economy was starting to move in the wrong direction. And so I think Al Rosen was like, I'll just take as much money as I could. But back in 1990, $52,000 was an insane amount of money. The most expensive card at that time was the T206 Honus Wagner, which sold for $500,000, which was bought by Wayne Gretzky and Bruce McNall, the owner of the Los Angeles Kings at the time. He then later went to jail for fraud, and as well as that, Honus Wagner was found to be altered. And so, again, the legend of the hobby continues. So let's get into this whole thing. So what's the first... So let's look at this question. So is it possible to get rich? So the first thing that we have to address is the obstacles, okay? So if you're gonna get rich, you have to address the obstacles. The first obstacle is money. If you don't have enough money, you're gonna have a problem. You have to have money to buy cards in order to sell them. So here's the question. If you wanna get rich, how much money do you really need? Well, again, this is all relative. If you're gonna be willing to do this full time, and you're going to hustle, then yeah, I think you could probably start with between $100 to $500. But that means that you need to hustle, because $100 to $500 is not going to make you a lot of money. You might be able to make off of 100, you might be able to make $50. Well, now you got 150 that you got to reinvest. You're not actually making money. You're making money to reinvest. That's the whole point. So how much money do you really need to make considerable amount of money? And I think you need to start with probably 5 to 10 grand. So I have allocated $10,000 for buying a collection or several collections. And the reason that I've done that is because I'm estimating that I'm going to need about $20,000 to $25,000 to buy the cards that left for my PC. There are a few more expensive cards that I would like, and the problem is that I don't have any more money that's allocated for buying cards. So I have to make a choice. I have $10,000 to buy cards, and I need like $20,000 to $25,000. So do I buy cards, and then what do I need the capital to reinvest, to buy collections, to then make enough money back. So what I'm thinking is that if I can buy a couple different collections for $10,000, I could probably make between $3,000 to $5,000 on that. That still doesn't get me to where I need to be. I then need to reinvest that, so $13,000 to $15,000 again. Hopefully on the back end I can get to, let's say, $16,000 or $17,000. Again, I'm still not there. I got to reinvest and do it one more time. Hopefully that'll get me over the $20K mark. Again, this is a lot of work, folks. Like it's not that easy. Now, the second obstacle is knowledge. You need to know about the hobby. Like if you don't know about the hobby, this is going to be a long road, because there's a lot of cards out there, especially in Ultra Modern. There are so many cards. I mean, Panini has how many sets? Topps has how many sets? Like Upper Deck, there's so many sets now, and there's so many parallels, and there's so many players, and I mean, it's mind-boggling. So knowledge is a problem for a lot of people, and a lot of people get burned because they don't know what's going on. Now, time is the other factor. I mean, if you're not going to do this full time, well, then time becomes an obstacle, because you have a job, you have family, you have friends, you have social life. Like you can't do both. It's just the way it is. You can't do both. Not if you're going to really try to get rich off of this. You can't do both. So you got to really think about it and go, okay, how much time do I want to invest in this? Now, support, it comes right down with time, because if you don't spend time with your family, you don't spend time with your friends, are they going to support you? Like, are they going to say, look, I'm with you, I'm behind you. You want to try to get rich doing this? You don't need to spend the time with me. Go do it. Go pursue your dreams. We got you back. If you don't have that kind of support, this is going to be a tough road to haul. So again, support's an issue. Sales volume. You have to sell cards. You have to sell a lot of cards. If I buy, let's say, 2-3 collections for $10,000, I'm back into the selling game. Not what I want to do, but if I buy the right stuff, there's a specific sweet spot based on my network, based on my relationships. I know specific types of dealers and specific types of collectors looking for specific things. The problem is that definitely for me, my network is too small. So one of the things that obviously I hope with this channel is that I can grow my network. What are you guys looking for? Because I see cards all the time. I also get people telling me about things because I have an IG and I have this channel, and people reach out to me and say, hey, Doc, are you interested in this? Again, I'm a pure collector. If you watched last week's show, again, I walked you through my progression. I started as an investor. I moved into a hoarder because I had 8 million cards, not 8,000, 8 million. I did have somebody come to me on IG, and hopefully we're going to get an interview with them. They had a great comment. I loved it. Absolutely. Had a wonderful chat with them on IG. And hopefully I'm going to have them in an interview for next week. But basically they had said to me, one, you seem to not recognize there's a lot of other people in the hobby besides
you as a collector. And that's actually their comment, this was 2 weeks ago, inspired me to make that video, which is there are a lot of people in the hobby, and I've moved through each one of those buckets. I started as an investor because I was a sports card dealer, then moved into the hoarding phase because I had way too much stuff and I hadn't sold anything. I literally, and he asked me, he's like, how in the world did you have 8 million cards? Like, that means that you must have had storage units. And the answer is I did. I had 2 storage units. Yeah, way too much. And I also had cards hoarded in my parents' basement. It was too much. Literally, I'm telling you, it was a hoard. Like, I'm not being facetious about it. I'm not making a joke. Like, I'm making a joke now because I sold it off. But I had a legit hoard, and I'm not a hoarder. That's probably the healthy thing about it is I had a hoard, but I'm not a hoarder. So I was like, I need to sell all this stuff. Problem with a lot of people in the hobby is they're hoarders. Like, they have a hoard and they are hoarders. So they will never sell anything. Even for a fair market value, they won't sell anything. So that's an issue. All right, let's get back to the obstacles. So you got to sell a lot of stuff. Now, profit margins is another obstacle because some people just don't understand profit margins. What you buy a card for, then where's your margin? Okay, so you have your buy price, your cost, then you have your sale price, and then you subtract, and in the middle is your margin. I know that might sound simplistic, but that's it. I mean, and a lot of people don't keep track of that. You need a spreadsheet with all of your costs, and then what your sale price is going to be. And you need to do percentages. You really need, if you want this to be full-time, and you want to make, like, not just a living, but you want to get rich on sports cards, then you're going to need like 40% profit margin on your cards. Now, obviously, not every card's going to have that. That's also the other piece, is not every card's going to get you that kind of profit margin. But if you're selling let's say you're selling a $2,000 card and you bought it for $1,500, well, that's $500 right there. The profit margin may not be, that big. That's only 25%, but it's $500. It's getting you, it's more dollar values. And so that's the piece. I will caution everyone, I will caution you that the higher dollar value that you go, the less people you have to sell to. So if you have, like, let's go back to this screen. So all these cards, okay? So all 4 of these cards. So you got the Paul Skeens 101 MLB patch. You got the Wilt Chamberlain rookie, which just sold for $1.7 million. You got the Jordan rookie, and you got the Mantle 1952 tops. Okay, there's only a small handful of people who are going to buy those cards because you're talking about dollar values that are above most people. So yes, you can sell them and maybe make good money. Like, let's say, so I estimate that the Jordan PSA 10 rookie, I estimate that it's between $150,000 to $200,000. Again, I still think it's a bubble. I think that the sweet spot, like as we go through, and I think the economy is in a recession right now. Again, the media is not covering that, but I think that the Jordan will fall between $100,000 to $130,000. It's above that right now. I want to make that very clear. It's above that right now, but I think the sweet spot's between $100,000 and $130,000 in value. Okay, so let's say, again, I mean, if you buy it now, you're probably overpaying for the card. But let's say in the future, when it does come down to where I think it should be, and let's say you buy it for $120,000, and let's say you could sell it for $130,000, well, you just made $10,000. That's nothing to sneeze at. It's not a big profit margin, but it doesn't matter. It's a $10,000 profit, which is more than you could make selling, again, 1,000 smaller cards. And that's the point, is that sometimes these bigger cards will give you more money, even though the profit margin is lower. It's just like selling cars. I mean, luxury cars, luxury products, you only sell a few throughout the month or even the year, but because you only sell a few and the price is so high that you make all your money for the year. And so for some people, this is the way to go because they only want to be in the luxury market. But it means that you are really sweating bullets, because if you don't make a sale, you make no money. It's basically all or nothing. And so you have to be really careful about that when you start doing this. All right, next is energy. And if you want to go to sleep, you can't get rich in sports cards. You have to do this all the time. And this is actually the advantage of social media. Is if you have a social media channel, you put out videos, you are working round the clock because your videos are working for you. You don't have to actually be in front of people, but you need to be in front of people 24/7. Like, otherwise you're going to miss a deal. So you saw in the intro, Mr. Rosen talking about the, actually he didn't talk about it. He was counting out $80,000 because that's what he would do. He would go around the country and he would buy deals. And whenever he would get a call, he would be on the plane to wherever he needed to be that day. He didn't even wait a day. So the 52 mantle that he bought, okay, so he claims that he got 75 ungraded mantles. And he's admitted that no one graded back in the day. That's just the way it was. And I'm in agreement with him. I started, again, as a child in 83 with one pack in 83 tops, and I pulled a Wade Boggs rookie. I was not a Red Sox fan, so I was not happy with that card. Again, no cards were really that valuable. Again, he wanted to sell the 52 for $52,000. At that time, that was an insane amount of money. Today, $52,000 for a mantle would be a bargain, but that's my point. My point is that you have to understand the time frame that we're talking about. All right, so those are the obstacles. Now, what's next? If you want to be successful in sports cards, if you want to get rich in sports cards, this is the strategy. All right, so write these things down. You have to pick the right players. I had last week in one of the comments, I think it was Jake, or I'm not remembering the name, Pierce. It was Zach Pierce, I think it was. Anyway, he said there are some cards I know I could sell right now and get exactly, like he knows exactly what he could get and he could sell them. Absolutely. And that's the point. Point is, there are certain players in this hobby that will sell no matter what. There's just a huge demand for them, and there's plenty of buyers. Even with people will buy multiple of the same card. That's the kind of market you want. One of those cards happens to be a Nolan Ryan rookie card. In 1968, that rookie card will sell all day, all night, as long as you're on, market comps. Like, as long as you're at the market, that card will sell all the time. Another card that will always sell is the 1989 Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card. It will always sell. As long as you're at the market, you will sell it. And that's the point. If you're too far above the market, you're going to have problems. Like a Paul Skeens today will sell above the market. There's so much hype around him. He can outpace the actual market. So what's the card worth? To be honest, it's what someone will pay for it. But once you get out of the hype, that whole strategy goes out the window. It's not what someone will pay for it. It's what is the market, and then you have to be at the market, and that's how you'll be able to sell your cards. All right, the next strategy, you have to be able to sell fast, flash sales. And the best way to do that in 21st century is to have a social media following, which then funnels into your Whatnot stream, your Fanatics stream, your eBay stream, like wherever you're selling cards, or if you're doing Veriswap, you're doing trades, like however you're doing that, you need to be able to sell as fast as possible. You want to be out of the cards as soon as you get them. Like literally, you do not want to be holding on to them for more than 3 weeks. So if you buy a card, you need to have an exit strategy that's so fast, because this hobby is moving at breakneck speeds. The 21st century has really turned things around. Like back in the day, we had the Beckett Guide. It came out once a month. And I mean, things felt slow. And I could even tell because, again, I was doing a card show literally every weekend. So I could tell when the Beckett Guide was off because I could see at the show like certain cards were just flying. And it was like the Beckett Guide was wrong, like completely wrong. And one of them, and I've talked to people about this, is the 89 Griffey. The Beckett Guide said it was worth about $100. Not at the card shows I was looking at. The card was selling for way more than that. Like I knew dealers who were selling it for $400. That's why they were paying me $200 and $250 for every one that I was pulling out of a case. Again, I had the opportunity to have cases, and so I could open up an entire case and pull as many Griffies out of it that I wanted. It was just printing money. It was crazy. What a crazy time. Honestly, crazy time. All right. Third thing, you need to monitor your cash flow. If you want to get rich on sports cards, you're running a business. Like this is not fun and games anymore. Like, if you really want to make money, you need to be serious about it. And that means you need to monitor your cash flow. So how much money did you spend? How much money you making on the back end? If you don't manage your cash flow, you're going out of business. It's just the way it is. You're going to have a lot of inventory and no cash. I did this a couple weeks ago. It's called Card Rich, Cash Poor. That's it. Monitor your cash flow to keep yourself in the hobby. All right. And the last is obviously be on top of your profit margins. Like I said, if you're not careful, if you pay too much for your cards, and I will tell you right now, so we got two influencers who made this mistake in the beginning, okay? So you have Ty Wilson from Chasing Cardboard, and you also have Jeff Wilson, the sports card collector. Both of them made that mistake in the beginning. They paid way too much for their cards, and now they have a lot of cards that aren't worth much. And so the only way they can sell their cards, and I know Jeff Wilson has teammates now. He has partners who are very, very savvy. Like the people who run Cards HQ, Jeff Wilson is the face of Cards HQ. The guys that run Cards HQ are actually really knowledgeable and they're really smart. Jeff Wilson doesn't overpay for cards anymore. In fact, probably the best thing about Cards HQ for Jeff Wilson is that he no longer gets screwed. He's no longer the sucker in the room. Like you can't just go to Jeff Wilson and say, hey, I want you to buy this and I'm going to charge you that. Like he's like, you got to ask the guys. Those two guys that run Cards HQ are very savvy. Like they are smart. And good for them. I want to say, congratulations to those two guys because you partnered with Wilson, who's got all the money. He's got the cash. He's got the cash flow. So he's funding all of this, and you guys just keep doing it. And it's, again, Jeff Wilson, you have to kind of admit at some point, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's good at social media. He's good at making, high quality content, but he's got those guys and they hold him to account for what's going on. And because of the partnership, that card shop is actually doing well. I did not think that was going to happen. But then again, I didn't know who those two guys were, but they are smart. They are smart, and he's smart for listening to them. And that's what a leader does. A leader listens. Leader shuts up and listens. So Jeff Wilson can do all his talking on social media. He listens to those guys, and they run a very good business. All right. So that's the strategy. So like I said, so these are the obstacles. This is the strategy. So let's see. What's the question again? So the question is, can you get rich? Is it possible to get rich with sports cards? All right. So that's the question. We're going to go back to the IG. So if you want to learn how to sell sports cards, this is what I'm doing. It's free, totally free. Again, I know I do a lot of free stuff on this channel, but that's the whole point. Whole point is to build a community for sports fans and sports card fans. If you are not subscribed to the channel, do it right now. Hit the like button. That's the key for me. Hit the like button. I appreciate it so much. Anyway, let's go back to the IG. So if you go to the pin post, okay, so that's the one, the orange and black, okay? So it says sales skills, basically teach me sales skills. So I want you to follow the account. I want you to hit the like button on that post, and then I want you to comment on the post 5 pillars. If you comment 5 pillars, then I know to basically DM you the PDF. It's just a PDF code to my Google Drive, and you can just download that PDF. It's 100% free, no skin off the game, nothing. Don't worry about it. It's literally, that's all you need to do. You need to follow an account, hit the like button on that post, and then comment on the post 5 pillars so that I know that's what you want. You want the PDF. If you don't comment 5 pillars, now you can comment anything else you want, but if you want the PDF, you have to comment 5 pillars, because that's all I'm getting alerts for, is the 5 pillars. So when I see that, I go, I gotta send you the DM. Like, that's it. That's how I know. All right. Anyway, let's get to the last piece, which is the execution. All right. So if you want to get rich with sports cards, what do you need to do, right? Is it possible to get rich? How long do you hold their cards for? This is the key. This is the key. If you hold on to your cards for too long, you're going to be in trouble. They're not going to sell them. If they don't sell within 3 weeks, trust me, the market's cooled down on that player. That's just the way it is, and you need to know that. If the market's cooled down, then you need to really reconsider what you're selling the card for. There's a ton of eBay stores that just hold on to cards forever. I don't know why. I don't know what they're thinking. No, you're not going to sell those cards eventually. It's not going to happen. There aren't enough people that don't know anything that are looking for your cards. Those days are over. Like, again, you got lucky during the pandemic. Eyeballs were all on the hobby. People came in with no clue what they were doing and buying everything. Literally, that's why the prices went up so much, because people were just dumping money into the hobby without knowing what they were doing. Jeff Wilson is an example. He spent $2 million on sports cards. Guess what? His sports cards are worth $1 million. He's lost $1 million. He just basically wasted $1 million on sports cards. Now, he owns them. So if he's a collector, and I agree, he is a collector, but he paid too much for his cards. Now, there's nobody left like that. No one is overpaying for cards. Jeff Wilson's not overpaying for cards. Card Collector 2's not overpaying for cards. Trike Sports Cards not overpaying for cards. Mojo Sports is not overpaying for cards. There's no more suckers. So you guys thinking that you can get a sucker who's going to overpay for a card is just not there. Pure collectors will overpay slightly because they actually want the card. But is that your strategy, is to screw people over? I mean, think about this. Think about this. So the second execution question you have to answer is, do you have a big enough network? All right? Do you have a big enough network? I told you right now, I do not. I do not have a big network right now. I have a small network. I've built up relationships. I have talked to dealers. I know what they want because I talk to them all the time. What are you guys buying? What are you guys buying? What are you guys buying? And they tell me, like, we're going after this player. We're going after that player. So when I see someone trying to sell a card, I have a general idea. Oh, that person would probably like that card. That person would probably buy it. And so my calculation in my head goes, okay, well, how much are you asking? And at this point right now in the hobby, we have a stalemate going on. So people are asking too much for their cards. I mean, and look, I'll put it this way. No sweat on you. Like, you can ask whatever you want to ask. But if you're looking to actually get money for the card, see, this is the question. If you want to get rich, then you need to value the money more than the cards. Bottom line, if you want to get rich, money is more important than cards. If you want to then use the money after you get rich to go back and buy cards for your collection, then that's a whole different, but that's two different things. It's a whole different ballgame. You're first trying to make all the money, so you need to sell everything. Then you can come back later and say, what do I want to collect? Because now you'll have the funds to do it. You can't really do both at the same time because, unfortunately, you'll hold on to cards that you probably should sell. And that's the piece. You should always be looking to sell your cards so you can get the cash. And then later on, once you have enough, so definitely make a goal. Make a sales goal. Be like, look, I want to make $500,000 and then I'll start collecting. Because if you have that as a goal, you're not going to screw yourself by holding onto a card that you could probably make money on. You have to have focus. Gotta have focus. All right. The next question, did you burn your bridges? Ooh, this is a tough one. This is a tough one, right? Like, a lot of you guys are really rude. Really rude. I get comments on YouTube. I wouldn't say they're not downright rude. Like, they're not obnoxious. I'm very lucky. I have the nicest YouTube community ever. I know how toxic social media can be. I know how toxic social media can be. And I am very lucky. I'm very fortunate. I thank my lucky stars every day that my YouTube community is so nice. But there are people who are what I would consider, again, in behavioral science, they would be called oppositional. And no matter what I say, they take the opposite approach. So if I say yes, they say no. If I say dark, they say white. It doesn't matter. Whatever I say, they take the opposite approach because they're oppositional. That's a behavioral science classification. So I recognize that. I know now who some of my followers are. And I know that I can't engage with them because all they're trying to do is do the opposite because they have that's their personality. It's nothing against them, but I don't want to engage with someone whose just whole purpose is to take the opposite opinion. Like, that's not fun. I know they think it's fun because, again, that's part of their personality, but it's not. I don't want to have an oppositional argument with someone who literally can't listen because all they're trying to do is just do the opposite. Now think about that. Yeah, that's not that much fun. I like engaging with people. I like the hobby because of the community aspect. I definitely like the relationships. I love talking about sports and sports cards. I've been doing this my whole life. So it's fun to do this channel. But do some of you guys burn bridges? Like, if you have an eBay store and somebody sends you an offer, do you insult them? Like, I understand that the offer might be insulting to you. I understand that, but they're trying to give you money. That's a lower level of insult. Be like if you have a card for $100 and they offer you $50, you might feel insulted, but it's still $50. You can say that's too low. I mean, that's honestly what you should say. You just say it's too low, but I'm entertaining offers, real offers. So if the person comes back at 75, well, that's a real offer. So here's the question. Are you even considering real offers, or are you just kind of fooling around and just be like, no, I'm not negotiating? And if that's the case, then just say that you should probably say that on your listings. Just make that a general, like on every one of your listings, there's no negotiation on price. Just put it down. Obviously, if you don't have a make an offer button, you're saying that there's no negotiation on price. But you should also put it into your eBay listing, I don't negotiate. And then people will just leave your store because there's no negotiation. I don't know if everybody gets that. Like, that's not a sale. Like, if you don't negotiate, then you don't want to sell. Hands down, because most of the time the prices are moving too fast, and so you're going to be either below market or over market. If you're not, like, if you have way too many listings, which some of you do have way too many listings, you can't keep track of them all, and your pricing might be off. I just went to a card shop, just picked up a Jackson Holiday Auto, okay? Limited edition, I think it was numbered to 25. And the price that they had at the store was $40 more than the comps. And so I just said, would you take X, which was basically what the comps were. And the store owner was like, wow, that's a lot lower. I said, yeah, that's what the comps are. And he's like, okay, let me check. And he checked and he's like, wow, really came down. I said, well, he didn't really have a very good season last year. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you, but that's the point. Didn't have a very good season last year, and that's why it's low. And he's like, okay. He's like, yeah, these are the comps. Absolutely. And because I was buying that, I was able to pick up a Bill Bradley rookie, which I've been looking for. And then also I got an 83 Ryan Sandberg, which I need for the PC. There's a bunch of 80s cards that I must have sold them all off. Didn't realize it because I wasn't doing the PC challenge at that point. So I'm also looking for an 83 Tony Gwynn. If anybody's got that, it's not worth that much. So just looking for that. I'd like to have a Gordie Howe if anybody has that. And a 1960, a Willie Mays or a Duke Snider. Again, I'm not looking to pay a lot. I'm not looking for it to be graded necessarily. Ungraded is fine. But I want to have Willie Mickey and the Duke from 1960. I already have the Mantle. So I'm just looking for the Duke Snider and the Willie Mays. Again, there's certain types of cards that I'm looking for. Now, here's the last question on execution, and that is, can you grow your social media, right? So can you grow your social media? Because in the 21st century, you need to be able to talk and communicate with a ton of people. That's it. So hold on one second. I'm going to be doing my mailbag, so I don't want you guys to go away. Here we go. We're going to do this in 2 seconds. So here we go. Let's go back to the execution. So can you grow your social media? Obviously, I have this channel. I wish I was at 3,000 subscribers, but I'm not. Again, if you guys want to help me, that would be great. The best way for YouTube to know that this is a channel that you like to watch, hit the subscribe button and hit the like button. That way YouTube knows this is a hot channel. It's the only way they know this is a hot channel. But that's the point. If you want to sell cards, you need to have a following. That's if you want to get rich. If you don't care about getting rich, then you don't need a following. But if you want to get rich, you need a following. So you have a choice. You can either do YouTube, you can do Instagram, you can do whatnot. You used to be able to do TikTok. Maybe you'd be able to do it in the future. Facebook group. Any Fanatics Live, eBay Live, like all of these different places, you need a following because that's what gets you the sales. You also are going to be building your network. This is the key, is your network. You need to know what people are looking to buy because you are, in essence, you're a broker. You buy cards, you sell them. If you don't have somebody on the back end to buy the cards, then you have to go to card shows. And for me, going to card shows, on a weekly basis is not something that I want to do. We go back to the obstacles, right? Go back to the obstacles. Time. I do not want to spend all my time on sports cards. I like it. This is a hobby. This is a collectible for me. I really like more talking with dealers and people who collect cards more than I like buying and selling cards, which is also why I'm being very, very cautious with the 10,000 that I have allocated to buy collections. I'm being very cautious because I know it's going to take more time than I want to devote, which is also why I haven't bought anything yet, and we're already into March. So, we might get to May and I may not have bought anything. That is a real possibility. I just want to say that. I have 10,000 allocated and it may be possible that I might not buy anything and it may be May or June and I'm still at the same point. I haven't bought anything. So just because I say I'm going to do something, I'm thinking through all of these obstacles, okay? I'm thinking through every single one of them, all right? So all of these things, all of them, I am thinking about them going, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to do this? All right, let's get to the mailbag, all right? So I have 2 things, and I'm excited to do this. Oh, actually, you know what? I want to show you. This is the other thing. I sent in, so I'm going to be putting together a whole bunch of videos on grading cards and how to grade and basically looking at them under the loop. Okay, so I'm going to show you all of that stuff, and I just got back my SGC basically order. Give me 1 second. Let me pull it up. Okay, so it's still in the box. Okay, it's still in the box. So I haven't even opened it, haven't done a reveal. I have a spreadsheet on what I think the cards we're going to get in terms of a grading. So I'm going to do a whole reveal on that, basically like what I thought they were and what they came back to. Let's see what my batting average is. But we're going to open up the mailbag. So here we go. This is the first one. And I don't remember if this one might be the 70. Nope. Oh, it's, yeah. All right. For some of you F1 fans. So this is the only, I'm not an F1 fan in terms of like collecting cards. I like F1 because I actually got to spend time with my father at the Cleveland Grand Prix, and we got to basically be on either the infield or whatnot, but he was taking pictures. My face was covered in burnt rubber at the end of the show, at the end of the race. But here we go. This is a World of Wheels, a Ferrari World of Wheels. Okay, so it is a glossy. It is a Ferrari. Again, it's no particular driver, but Ferrari, for me, this is the ultimate sports car. Okay, no Lambo, the Ferrari. That's for me. All right. So anyway, so that's my F1 card. I'm very happy about it. The guy finally, I talked to the guy for 2 years, maybe almost 3 years. He just refused to lower the price. He just like, nope, I'm asking this much. And then I think eventually he was like, he's like, do you still want it? And I was like, yeah. He's like, all right, I'll take what you offered me. Again, 3 years ago, he finally took my offer. Again, we're not talking about a lot of money. We're talking like a couple bucks. But again, some people are just, they're stubborn, or they just think they can get more. It is what it is. Like some of these lower end stuff, you just got to sell them. All right, so here we go. Opening it up. For all you sound junkies. Oh, here we go. Is it 1 or 2? Yeah. Nope, it's a couple. All right, I'm going to pull them out. Damn. See, somebody put the wrong tape on that. All right, so now I got to actually fuddle with it. All right, here we go. Beautiful. All right, I'm going to take it out. Here we go. So we got 2 cards. So these are the 2 World Series cards from the 1969 Mets. Okay, so let's do that. So this one is the first one. This one is card number 306. Okay, and this one is 309. And that is, okay, so Kuzman. And this one is Clenendon. There you go. And so what I think there's 5 World Series cards in the 1970 set. This is obviously the 69 World Series. That's when the Mets won the World Series. They were the miracle team because nobody thought they could win. But anyway, so I'm collecting all 5. I think I only need 1 more. I have a spreadsheet on it. Again, sometimes when you have too many cards, so this is the key. When you have too many cards, and again, like I said, I'm probably going to have under 1,000 cards in my PC. I tried to get down to 500. Again, I'm not a hoarder, but I definitely, I know I like a lot more cards than I think 500. So it is what it is. Again, it's no longer 8 million. It's not overwhelming anymore, so it's fine. So I'm going to have about 1,000 cards. But when you have that many, so like 1,000 cards, you can't remember every card you need. You can't remember every card you need. Like that's the point. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's go back to this camera. So hopefully that makes sense. You can't remember every card you need. That's why you need a spreadsheet. So I go through that spreadsheet all the time with the idea that I want to make sure that I don't have too many cards. So I go through and say, do I really need this card? Like if I don't have the card, I go through like every month and say, are there any cards that I could eliminate off this list? Again, that I don't have. Now, if I have the card and I'm like, yeah, I could probably get rid of this one because I don't need that many of every player. There's certain players that I'm collecting a lot of their cards. Like I have most of Pierre LaRouche's cards. He was my favorite player growing up as a New York Ranger fan, and he almost became the first player in NHL history to score 50 goals with 3 separate teams. He missed it with the Rangers, only had 48. in his 1 year. Well, he played for the Rangers a few years, but in the year that he scored the most, he only had 48 with the Rangers. So he was 2 shy of 50 goals with 3 teams. Would have been the first player ever in NHL history to do that. Also, I'm collecting, as you guys know, the Gary Carter cards, but I'm actually going up to 1987, and then I'm stopping. That's it. I'm not going beyond 1987. So, like, there's a piece of this, like, I'm not collecting every card. I'm not collecting every player. You know, I'm collecting only the Topps cards for Gary Carter. So, his rookie card up through 87, and I have most of them. I think I'm missing 2 at this point. But that's my point. I'm not collecting everything. I'm a pure collector. You know, again, we talked about this last week. So, yeah, so this is it. I'm a pure collector. I'm not an investor. I'm not a hoarder. I'm a pure collector. Yes, I have allocated $10,000 so that I can do investing. Again, short term, make the money. But then I'm skipping over the hoarding stage. I don't want to be getting, and that's actually going to be the problem. I'm going to get a lot of cards. Now, here's the thing, that I'm going to basically clearance everything I don't want after I buy the 10,000. So if you want to get on the back end, so whenever I buy these cards, like I'm going to sell the most expensive stuff out of whatever I buy. And then everything else is going to be clearance. Because I don't want the cards. I just want the cash back to be able to go back and deploy that cash. So I don't want the cards at the back end of this. So if you want to buy cards for much lower than anywhere else, then this is the way to do it. Now, I don't know exactly how I'm going to sell all that bulk. That's going to be the question. I'm looking into different technologies, looking into different ways of doing that, because I don't want to, obviously, if I'm selling a clearance, I don't want to sell, like, I don't want fees on that. It's clearance. If you're going to get the deal, I need to get all that cash. So obviously, card shows are the best way to do that, because if you're right there, it's just, here you go, take it, and I take the cash and you go, and you didn't pay fees, you didn't pay anything else on it. Again, it's the best way to handle it. Unfortunately, with technology, there's shipping, there's like costs get too much for clearance. Like, you might get a deal, but then you add the shipping, the tax, and all the other fees on top of it, and it's like, it's not really a deal anymore. And that's the issue. So let's get back to the question. Is it possible to get rich on sports cards? I want you to put your answer in the comments right now. Let me know and give me a reason why. Like, if you thought the obstacles were not an issue for you, if you like the strategy, what do you think makes it worth it to buy and sell sports cards? And while you're giving the answer down, let's get to your viewer comments.
Okay, it is time for the viewer comments. Literally, this is my favorite part of the show, because this is when I get to hear from you guys. This is the best part, like, seriously. So first, let's do the poll that is on the community tab, all right? So the question is, this is from last week's show. So if you haven't watched it, go back. I got 13 comments from last week's show. So this is also the viewer poll. So 37 votes so far. What type of person are you based on the last week's episode? Investor, hoarder, pure collector. And pure collector wins by 59%. Okay, so let's get to the comments. Now, I had 13 from this week's episode. I'm not going to go over 13, but I am going to pull out a bunch. So from Trader5777, he said, I'm a hoarder collector. Okay, from Jay Giuliano, he said hoarder first, investor second, arguably snooty collector third. I like that comment. That's good. All right, let's get to Bargain Boxer. He says, I am in bucket B and C. I'm assuming that means you're a hoarder and a collector. So, okay, well, how do you determine the difference between it sounds like you're really just a hoarder, because how can you be a collector as well? It's kind of an excuse. You're a hoarder and you're trying to use collector as an excuse. We'll see. I am a pure collector hoarder. Yeah, that's pretty much a hoarder. I'm not an investor because cards are not an investment. Stocks and bonds are an investment, so BC is where I'm at. All right, well, I do agree with you on the investment part. Absolutely. But you're a hoarder. So you need to sell some of your cards. Then you can be a pure collector. Once you do that, then you can be a collector. All right, let's get to love of the hobby, or love for the hobby. Oh, that's a nice, like, hey, that's a nice YouTube name. The fact that you got that, it's pretty cool. All right, so I collect all Hall of Famers. All right, well, you're in the expensive category. In all sports, I almost have each Hall of Famer in every sport rookie card, and I collect a lot of borderline Hall of Famers, but I'm not trying to get all of their rookie cards. Okay, well, I mean, there's a big list of Hall of Famers, so that's a lot of cards. I'll just say that. If that's what you want to do, obviously that's what you want to do, but it's starting to sound like you're a little bit of a hoarder, because you're not really picking. Like, you're just sorting, like, I'll be Hall of Fame in every sport, and like, so yeah, I mean, you're curating a little bit, but maybe you need to curate a little bit more to stay away from the hoard category. But you're on the right track. I'll definitely say that. All right, let's get to Fanatics Sports Cards. Again, awesome name, guys. You guys have really good names on YouTube. All right, so I'm a hoarder. Well, there we go. I mean, I like when people are honest. I'm not a hoarder, but I was a hoarder, because, like, I had 8 million cards, but I'm not personally a hoarder, so I knew I needed to get rid of them. And since I'm not a hoarder, I didn't have any problem getting rid of them. Like, hoarders can't get rid of their stuff. That's actually part of the issue. That's why they're a hoarder. They know they should get rid of it, but they can't get rid of it. It's the hoarding disorder, you know. I'm not a hoarder, but I recognize, holy cow, I created a hoard. I need to get rid of these cards. You know, again, there's a South Park episode where Stan becomes a hoarder, and he can't get rid of, like, you know, lunch that's got maggots on it. And they're like, it's got maggots on it. He's like, well, I might need that, you know. That's the point. If you're a hoarder, you make every excuse not to get rid of cards. All right. I have probably several hundred non-duplicate Joe Mauer and Frank Thomas cards, some numbered, some parallel, some insert, but I would never consider myself a pure collector. Well, no, you're a hoarder. I got it. Even though I don't have a closet or rooms filled with bulk. Well, yeah, you do. You have too many. I mean, well, how many total cards do you got? Like, do you only collect Joe Mauer and Frank Thomas? Like, if that's all you collect, I'm just going to say this. If you only collect Joe Mauer and Frank Thomas, then you're not a hoarder. I'll just put it that way. Unless you're collecting everything that they've ever done. If you're just collecting cards and it's only one of each, like you don't have like 50 of each card, then I'm gonna actually say that you're probably a collector, not a hoarder, even though you might have a lot of cards, but you've seriously curated down to be like, I'm just collecting Joe Mauer and I'm just collecting Frank Thomas. That's a collector. I mean, literally, you have specialized, you have curated, you have decided this is the direction I want to go. I'm with you on that. If that's what you got, to be honest, hit me up on Instagram. I want to see the pictures of some of the cards you got. I'm now curious. I want to know, because I like Joe Mauer and Frank Thomas. Absolutely. I met Frank Thomas. Frank Thomas was amazing. I met Frank Thomas and I was like, huh, I am literally a 25% physically of a Frank Thomas. The man is a tank. Like, I sat next to him and I just was like, this is another human being. It's amazing. He's 3 times the size of me. 3 times. He's huge. He's huge. All right, anyway. To me, that pure collector type is the guy that collects Sandy Koufax, but only his most important cards and only in the highest grades. Most of us are hoarders. Very few of us are that self-aware. I'm gonna say that somewhat. If you only collect Joe Mauer and Frank Thomas, you are a collector. I do not collect the highest grade. I don't want to put that much money into it. For me, it's appreciation. I love the actual cards. I like the community. So I just, I'll take an ungraded, card. I don't like creases in the cards. It's the only thing that kind of gets me. got, a Bill Bradley rookie. It's got a crease in it. So, I want to maybe try to trade it or something, like somehow get one that doesn't have a crease, but I don't need one that's a PSA 8. In fact, I don't even like graded cards all that much. I like getting the autographs graded because of the fact that it's authentic, and I can, if I want to sell it, I can sell it easily. With the ungraded stuff on the regular cards, it's not that hard. Like, yeah, I'm not going to get as much money back, but I don't care. I didn't spend that much money on it. So for me, it's about value. It's about, I'm collecting the cards that I like and I'm not spending too much, so it's value. It's a hobby to me. And so how much money do I want to put in my hobby? Not a lot. Like, honestly, I'll put it this way. I don't want to put a lot of money into my hobby. I want my hobby to pay me back. Not necessarily in money, but in enjoyment. So, when I go to, like, I'm not a gambler either. When I go to Vegas, I don't gamble a lot of money. I look at it as entertainment value. So I'll put $20 down on a game, because to me, I'm watching the game anyway. So I only bet on my teams because I'm going to watch the game. And then I get to watch the game. It's 2-3 hours. And if I win, I watched it. I already enjoyed the game. And then if I win, I get money on the back end. I mean, it's like a no-brainer. Of course I'm going to do that. If I play slots, I only bet like $40 a day. That's it. Like $40 into the slots machines. And if I run out, that's it. I'm done. So for me, it's entertainment value. The hobby is entertainment value. So it's not about the dollar amount, which is why I only look at cards that are either underappreciated or I can get a deal on them. You can call it whatever you want. It's just the way that I do the hobby, because I don't want to spend a lot of money on this. It's just not my thing. So anyway, I appreciate that comment. This is the last one. This is from Tim. He says, "Hey Doc, I would consider myself a pure collector. Okay. I would love to come on your show. Hey, that is awesome. If you got IG, please DM me, let me know. Obviously, let me know it's you, Tim K 1976. Absolutely. I have a pretty varied collection. I collect 70s, 80s hockey. Ooh, I'm already there. You got me. We're talking Esposito and oh yeah, absolutely. Big Red Machine cards. Okay, we got the Reds. Vintage Reds cards. I player collect Wayne Gretzky, Mario New, Pete Rose, Johnny Bench, Ted Kluzinski, Frank Robinson, and Walter Payton. Non-sports 77 Star Wars. WWF, 85. Yeah, that's a good year. Wrestling, 85 Garbage Pail. And do you consider me a hoarder because I don't stay in one lane, enjoy collecting different players from different sports? So that's actually a really good question. Here's the piece. The real difference between a hoarder and a collector is that you really start curating a story. What is your collection? If you can kind of explain it, I'm going to tell you, I was with you. You basically 70s, 80s was sort of the umbrella. So you have Hockey Hall of Famers, you have the Big Red Machine. It's that 70s, 80s era. It makes sense. So even pulling in the WWF or WWE now into that, it makes sense because you're the 70s, 80s umbrella. You're only collecting there. The part that you have to be careful of is how many cards. That's it. That's what's the difference between curation and hoarding. Is if you're saying, well, this is the piece of the collection that tells my story. So if you have every WWF card, then yeah, it's kind of a hoard because you don't need it all. You just need the key figures at that time. Like the Macho Man and Randy Flair, and you only need a certain amount. It would probably be Andre the Giant as that period. Like that's what you want. You want to start actually curating it out. The best way to do that is to put a spreadsheet together and just kind of like look at it and say, okay, how does this do it? And then you go to the cards, and obviously the images on cards make the difference. When I do my collection, so I have 2 cases right now. So I have 2 black cases. You guys have seen them. I put them out on the table. I got 2 black cases. I've separated them out from early, like vintage, to more 80s modern. Okay, so one is modern, one is vintage. Okay, so that's kind of how I've separated physically. Still have way too many cards to fit into 2 cases. So I also have bins that are basketball, hockey, and football. Don't have many football cards, and based on everything that I can see, I really am not going to have that many football cards. Very few. I have a couple in my collection that are like just absolutes, and then every once in a while I'll look and I'll be like, oh, you know what, I should probably have that card in the collection. So it makes sense. The football, I'm not quite sure what I'm doing. The hockey is probably the one I'm building out the most right now, and so I'm looking for a Gordie Howe. Yeah, I want to get an Austin Matthews patch auto, but they are expensive. Woo! Okay, so I don't know. Hopefully I can get one of those. I don't know. Maybe not. But my point is that's like, I don't have a Bedard. Is he a great player? Yeah, he's a decent player. Like, he's actually on pace again to actually do the same stats that he did last year, and he won the Rookie of the Year. It's just he's not a rookie, so people are like, well, you know, that's not that good. He's actually pretty good. You know, he didn't make the leap that Jack Hughes made, but, you know, okay, he's also really young. So next year I would expect him to get 90 points next year. That would be my expectation. The next year he actually grows to 90 points, which, if that happens, he's a superstar. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Like, so I wouldn't say you're a hoarder unless, and you're going to come on the show so we can actually look and see how many cards you have. But if you have like several thousand cards, then I would just start to say, like, look, put a spreadsheet together and really try to pare it down. What are the cards that you absolutely cannot get rid of? And make that the first priority list, right? So just kind of separate those out. I am never getting rid of these cards. Like the garbage pail stuff, you don't need all of them. There are certain key ones. And there's probably ones that you're just sort of like, yeah, that's the best one. Those are the ones that I would kind of curate and be like, okay, these are my garbage pail kits. Because you don't need the whole set. I mean, it's crazy. You don't need the whole set. So that's the piece. And the Star Wars, you don't need all the Star Wars cards. There are certain key ones. Obviously, you'd want to have R2-D2. You'd want to have C-3PO. You know, you'd want to have Luke and Han. You know, those are the, you know, Millennium Falcon. I mean, clearly you'd want the Millennium Falcon. But all the other cards, you know, like, you don't need them all. And that's the point, is you really just want to hone in on, okay, what does this collection do? I mean, I don't know if you have, I have Grease cards, you know, from the 70s. So, you know, John Travolta, Olivia Newton-John, you know, I mean, so I get it. I understand that 70s, 80s periods for a lot of people is a key period. For my dad, it was the 50s. So collecting in the 50s and early 60s was his period of collecting, but he was a hoarder. He bought everything. Like, if he saw it, he bought it. What's interesting, I find it interesting, is the beginning of this video. So if you guys go back and watch the beginning of the video with Al Rosen, so Mr. Mint, as he's counting out all that money, what I want everybody to understand is that from a personality standpoint, and a lot of you are trying to do this, from a personality standpoint, when you have that much money that you are counting it out and everybody's watching you, there's a power dynamic to that. Like, you feel powerful because you can literally count out that much money. And you're showing it off. There's an exhibitionism to it. And you can see Mr. Rosen kind of like, it's getting him off. Like, he is getting high. like, look at this, look at what I can do. Boom, boom, boom. And my father kind of, like, when we would go to a store, again, he was a hoarder, but when he would go to a store, he wanted that power. He wanted to be able to say, I will take one of each on this row. That's the power. So I don't have that. That's not my personality. My personality is much more quiet. Even though I'm a leader and I'm out there and I do this channel, and a lot of you think that I'm arrogant, I'm not. I'm a quiet person. And so because I'm a quiet person, I'm not trying to get attention. I'm not trying to get out there. I know I get a lot of attention. Trust me, I get a lot more attention than I actually want. It's just something that's natural to me. But I'm a quiet person. And so what happens is when I go into situations, I'm trying to just listen more than I talk. I'm trying to understand where people are coming from, which is probably why I enjoy this hobby, because it's a quiet hobby. You can take your cards and you can enjoy them by yourself. Now, I obviously like to talk about them because I find it fun to talk about them. But there are times where I just take moments, I'm quiet, I open up the case, and I go through the cards. That's it. I just flip through them like, oh yeah, okay. So to me, there is an appreciation to the cards. Now, I also have a history background, American history background, and so the cards to me trigger moments in history that I have studied. So if I'm looking at the Carl Yastrzemski 76 card, which is basically, it's not the actual, home run or the foul ball that he hit, or the home run. It's the hit because he's like, go, come on, go fair. That's the 76 playoff. Like, that card looks like that. So it triggers for me 76. Again, I'm old enough to remember that. I'm not that old, but I'm old enough to remember 76. In 80, which was really where I started to understand sports and whatnot, obviously the Miracle on Ice, like it's just, there's nostalgia to it. And that's sort of what the hobby is. It's about nostalgia. It's about going back in time. It's time travel. I mean, these are time travel cards. So hopefully all of that is, everybody, I love everything. I have 13 comments on this one. I'm trying to count out how many total comments I've had on the whole channel. Like, it's hundreds and hundreds of comments. I want to thank everybody for watching. This is Doc saying, have a great weekend.